I'll be ready to piss on your face and kick you right in the dick. Anyway, welcome to my rant and review on Baywatch, aka Bad Watch, because this movie was a very bland, boring, bad watch. This film was a movie that I was kind of hoping that I would get some dumb fun out of it. Like 21 Jump Street, or 22 Jump Street, or Neighbors, or something like that. And apparently that's kind of what the producers thought that people would get out of it as well. But that's not at all what I got from this movie. I got a movie that was honestly blander and less interesting or crazy or fun than an episode of the show. And I'm not really a big fan of the show. I always thought it was a bad show, and the only thing that's memorable about the show was the theme song by Jimmy Jameson, and the fact that you have slow motion boobs. Like, that's the only thing I really remember at all being memorable about the show. Oh, and of course, you had the Hoff. But that's it. Everything else was just like, okay, there were some crazy scenarios they got involved with that were kind of fun, and Baywatch Nights was a thing. And a really weird, bizarre, ridiculous thing. But, you know, hey, as bad as Baywatch Nights is, I'd rather watch an episode of that than this movie. Because at least it's an interesting failure. This is just boring and bland. And for the most part, just painfully unfunny. And it does everything that it possibly can to put a spotlight on how bad it is. There's no subtlety to any of these bad jokes, any of these bad bits of humor. It's either stuff is drawn out to the point where it just becomes really ludicrous, and not in a funny way, and not in a good way, just in a way that just points out how incompetent the writing is, or it's just completely lazy. With, you know, just the same kind of repeated gags that really didn't work the first time, but they just keep trying to make it work. Or really lazy fat guy jokes, or dick and balls jokes, and so on. Now, the film is directed by a director named Seth Gordon, who I know he can do better than this. This is the guy who directed Horrible Bosses, which I thought was a great comedy. That was funny. Something that this movie is not. And it was more memorable than this. This isn't even that memorable. I don't remember anything about this movie except some really bad lines of dialogue, the annoying fat fuck character, who was like a horrible bastard mix of Jonah Hill and Josh Gad. And then I also remember how bad the CGI was in a certain scene, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's all I really remember about this movie. Oh, and how hot some of the actresses were, but, you know, hey, that's, you know, that's not really something that's I can really attribute to the film. These are already hot actresses. I mean, the film didn't make them hot. So, but Seth Gordon, I know he's done better. He directed A Fistful of Quarters, the King of Kong documentary. He directed Identity Thief, which is one of the few Melissa McCarthy movies that I thought was actually fun. What happened? Did he just is it because he was an executive producer on Pixels? Did he just completely lose his talent? Did the shittiness of Pixels rub off on him when he was on the set, and then he carried it over to this movie? I don't know what the fuck happened here. This doesn't even look like a film that is directed by the same guy. And it's just baffling. I cannot believe that this is the same guy who directed Horrible Bosses. That had a visual style to it that's completely absent here. And I can't believe Ivan Reitman was one of the producers for this either. But it features a script by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, the guys who wrote Freddy vs. Jason, and also helped write Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. Why are you hiring those guys to write a Baywatch movie? And it seems it's painfully evident that these guys don't know what the hell they're doing with this property. these guys have done just horror. They're not used to doing Baywatch. I mean, it was just the worst possible choice you could come up with to write a script for this kind of movie. They're totally out of their element, and it shows. They're trying to do these gag things. They're trying to have meta humor with references to the show and some other stuff, but it really doesn't work. They're trying to eat their cake, and have their cake and eat it too, but it doesn't really work either, because they're all trying to be like, oh, look how stupid we are. We know how stupid we are. Wink, wink. But it still doesn't make it not stupid. This movie absolutely drowns in its own stupidity and its cliches, and it's just really shitty screenplay, which is easily the worst thing about the film. It suffocates these actors, who there's a good amount of them who are actually trying. They're trying to deliver deliver some actually fairly solid charismatic performances, and they're and they have likable characters, and they're trying, but whatever they're doing is wasted by this shitty screenplay. This is the plot of this movie. You have Baywatch, which is this elite group of lifeguards who work on the beaches of Florida. And the leader of the group, of course, is The Rock, who plays a character named Mitch Buchanan. And apparently this also takes place in the same universe as the TV show, because there's a new Mitch and an old Mitch, David Hasselhoff, who shows up in a cameo. A really lame cameo, but yeah, he's in it. So Mitch and his other, his team of lifeguards, who you have Kelly Rohrbach, who plays C.J. Parker, who's Pamela Anderson's character, but Pamela Anderson's character also exists in this universe as well. So you have C.J. and you have Stephanie Holden, played by Ilfenesh Hadera, and they're trying to recruit new members for the team. And there's this guy, this fat loser of a guy who's socially inept, who really wants to be a lifeguard, mainly because he has a crush on Kelly Rohrbach's character, CJ. So this character named Jon Bass, which is perfect because he has all the acting ability of a fucking bass. We should have thrown his ass back into the ocean or into the water, because he sucks ass. So Jon Bass is this annoying character who, this caricature of, a fat nerdy guy. Really. What you think of when you think of a loser, a fat loser nerdy guy, this is who he plays. And it's so cringe-inducing to watch this character. He single-handedly brings the film down a couple notches, because in every scene he's in, he sucks dick. He's fucking horrible. He's annoying. He's not a likable character. I really think that what they should have done is, instead of doing this stupid fat guy shtick, this guy's a nerd and he's fat, isn't that so hilarious? Instead of doing that lazy shit, they should have had a character kind of like me. Some skinny guy who's just an average guy. He's a skinny, average guy who isn't there for comic relief. He's just a determined guy who wants to genuinely be a lifeguard, but he just hasn't been able to get on the team because he's not in the best of shape. So I think that would be a better thing to do. I mean, you don't have to, in a comedy, you don't have to have the comic relief character. That's not always necessary. And it was not necessary here. Because you already have Zac Efron and The Rock and their hijinks. You don't need the fat guy hijinks. It's not needed whatsoever. So he eventually gets a spot on the team, along with two other members. One who's hired by the guy who runs the beach, for publicity. Matt Brody, played by Zac Efron, who is a disgraced gold medalist. He was an Olympic swimmer who won a bunch of gold medals, 2 of them, swimming, but he's selfish and he's a prick, and he got drunk before he decided to do a relay at the Olympics, and he vomited in the pool, and so he got the nickname the Vomit Comet. And so he's disgraced, and so on. And he's a cocky son of a bitch, and there's this drama back and forth with the character. Who cares? Zac Efron is trying, and he's in phenomenal shape, impressive shape, but there needs to be more to this character and to this film other than hot guys and hot girls. It seems like that's all they did. Their screenwriters are like, Baywatch. We have Zac Efron and The Rock, and we got these hot chicks. What movie can we make with these actors, with this cast? How about Baywatch? And let's not even bother to write a screenplay. Let's just write it on the set. I mean, that's what it really looks like, is they didn't even bother at all. So, unlike 21 Jump Street, which is actually a fairly beloved film because they actually tried. They did something different. They made a film that you can stand on its own and is actually a legitimately good comedy that's clever and funny and has great performances and likable characters. This is a complete opposite. It's not funny. It doesn't have memorable characters, even though I didn't mind Alexandra Daddario as Summer Quinn, or Kelly Rohrbach as CJ, or Ilfenesh Hadera as Stephanie Holden. I didn't mind those characters, but they weren't particularly memorable. They didn't have any memorable lines of dialogue. They didn't have any memorable scenes. Even The Rock could not save this film from drowning. He sucks in this. This is easily his shittiest role I've seen in a long time. I'd rather take him in Hercules over this. And I haven't seen films like The Game Plan or The Tooth Fairy, but I'm pretty sure I would rather watch those over this as well. Because this is just painfully bad at times. Like I said, an opening, parody song, piss in your face and kick you right in the dick. And so Jon Bass, he makes the team. Ronnie makes the team. So does Summer, played by Alexandra Daddario, and Zac Efron, who joins because he's there for publicity reasons, and it's so he can serve his probation term. And there's this drug that's washed up on the beach that's really dangerous and has some pretty deadly side effects, and it's being spread. And The Rock, Mitch, is wondering who's selling it, who's spreading it on his beach. And this script is so awful that it's predictable. It's so awful, it's extremely predictable. There's no suspense. Because as soon as Priyanka Chopra's character, Victoria Leeds, shows up, and she's all talking about how she wants to, start up a development near the property, and she wants the oceanic lifeguards to join her in a party, and it's just a character that just screams villain, and there's no suspense, and they don't even try to even hide it. It's just bam, villain right from the beginning. So there's no suspense, there's no mystery. Who's shipping the drugs? It's her. Who's trying to take over the beach? It's her. Who might be in on it? Let me guess. It's probably the guy who's been acting like an asshole the whole time. Rob Huebel's character. Don Thorpe, your boss. Oh yeah, of course. There's no suspense. There's no surprises. So it's hard for me to give a fuck about what's going on with the plot. Because it's the most generic plot imaginable. It doesn't help that you have the fat fuck character, Ronnie, Jon Bass's character, and his awful performance. Fucking singing Katy Perry's Roar while he's naked in the shower, like it's fucking hilarious. Getting his dick and balls stuck in a wooden plank in a scene that just goes on forever and is literally torture to sit through. I mean, that's how most of the humor is anyway. It's like I'm getting my dick and balls caught in a wooden bench, and it hurts. It hurts like hell. So you just, these fucking characters that don't amount to much, and it doesn't even have any fun action sequences. There's a really fucking shitty scene where The Rock and the other members, they go in and save some hot chicks, it's basically some sluts. They save some sluts on a boat that's on fire in the middle of the ocean. And the CGI fire and the boat and everything is CGI. Everything is done behind a green screen. I can't even believe somebody watched this sequence and was like, yeah, that's worthy of being released in theaters. This was Asylum Sci-Fi Channel original movie level CGI graphics. This was fucking crap. This was awful. This looked like a PlayStation game. It took me out of the film immediately because of how fucking shitty the CGI was in the scene. The CGI in the scene is so bad, it's astonishing. You're just like, how in the fuck did they let this be in the movie? I know it was a $69 million budget film, but you're telling me you couldn't shoot a boat on fire and blow it up for $69 million? So, and then you have other attempts at action where it's a really short, lame chase with jet skis with The Rock and this other guy who's working for Priyanka Chopra's character, Victoria Leeds, who has no character to her other than she's a rich bitch. That's all she is. She's a rich bitch. And she can't act. And she's got fish lips. Great. Wonderful. So you got a shitty villain to go along with your shitty script. And so one of her henchmen gets in a fight with a little short, there's not much to it, chase scene with jet skis, which honestly is pretty boring and wasn't directed very well or edited very well either. It wasn't thrilling in the slightest. And you saw most of it already in the trailer. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the jokes, a lot of the action, you already seen in all of the trailers. And so this culminates in a really half-assed fight in some little girl's bedroom in some house that the bad guy ran into, and The Rock gets in a fight with him. He strangles him with a SpongeBob SquarePants necklace, or what the fucking thing that hangs over a baby's crib. I forgot what it was called. Mobile. Strangles him with a mobile while the SpongeBob SquarePants theme plays. You have this awkward scene where The Rock is telling the guy when he's about to grab a picture of the girl and hit him with it. He's like, "No, don't use the baby picture. No, that's not cool, man." And it's like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And then he still tries to hit him with it, and The Rock kicks his ass. And The Rock ends up, because the whole thing you saw in the trailer, go to sleep, bitch. It's night bitch. Night time, bitch. Of course, nothing happens. And then eventually he takes him out by shooting him with baby powder, and he puts a diaper bin on his head and punches him into a pool, and then says this cringe, really lame one-liner. "It's bath time, bitch." Just bath time, shithead. That's really what he said. It was like, "Bath time, shithead." Actually, "bath time, bitch" would be better. But he already said that earlier. It's night time, bitch. So it would have been better if you just... Why are you having two one-liners in the span of, 1 minute? All in 1 minute. That doesn't make any sense. You have one one-liner here, It's nighttime, nighttime, bitch, and doesn't do anything with it because he doesn't knock him out afterwards. And then then you have another one-liner on top of it, which is even worse. Bath time, shithead. And I'm just like, oh yeah, get it? Because he has baby shit on his head because he put a diaper bin on his... What the fuck? The Rock, what are you doing in this? Come on, Dwayne. Come on, man. This is clearly a paycheck role. Because for fuck's sake, he isn't even trying. And Zac Efron's character is just this guy who's just he's just a selfish prick. Zac Efron does a good job with the role, but he's not a very likable character. And he has the change of character where he's supposed to become a better guy, but I don't buy it because he's still a dick. And you have the climax, which has some potential with the fireworks and everything, but it doesn't really work too well because of some more awful effects rear their ugly head. And then you have what could be a potential badass one-liner moment is turned into a lame-ass one-liner moment by The Rock, where he corners the rich bitch and she's about to shoot him, and she shot him earlier and she can't believe he's still alive. And The Rock just loses his goddamn mind apparently and says this line. It says these lines of dialogue. No! I was born of the sea. I eat fire coral and I piss salt water. I scratch my back with a whale's dick. I'll die when the tide stops and the moon drowns. Until then, I'm oceanic. And then he shoots her with a firework and blows her up. And I'm like, the fuck was that? Who wrote this shit? Oh, the guys who did Freddy vs. Jason. Why? What was remotely funny or badass about that exchange? Nothing. It's just fucking random nonsense. It isn't even good in an awkward humor way. It's just fucking bad. There's not a single fucking thing about that exchange that is funny. It's just random words. And let's throw in whale's dick. And just random shit and hope it gets a laugh. Just honestly, that was some of the worst fucking lines of dialogue I've ever heard The Rock ever say in any movie he's ever been in. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing for Zac Efron too, this whole movie. I mean, there's a scene where he's in drag because he's going deep undercover. Not that deep. I mean, like, why? What was the point of the drag thing? It doesn't go, they don't do anything with it. He's just randomly in drag. And then you have the scene in the trailer where they hide in a morgue, and there's a stupid scene where The Rock has Zac Efron check the guy's balls, and he takes a photo, and I was in the one, tickling his taint. Don't stand there tickling his taint. Look at it, or whatever the fuck. And then the scene where then Zac Efron hides underneath a dead body and fat drips on him and it's supposed to be hilarious. And I'm just like, this is just gross. This isn't funny. This is just gross. And even the cameos of the Baywatch characters are just complete lazy bullshit. And they're extremely lame. David Hasselhoff shows up when The Rock's character Mitch he's been fired, and so he's working at a cell phone place, and randomly, I guess David Hasselhoff's character from Baywatch is a customer of the store or something, and then he's like he's giving him a pep talk, and I'm like, this is just awkward, and this just seems really out of place. And whatever happened to the shot that you've seen on the internet that has The Rock and David Hasselhoff running shirtless together on the beach? That would have been a cameo that would have made more sense. Not some random pep talk at a fucking cell phone store. And then, speaking of random scenes, you have a scene where Zac Efron he was put in a shark cage and dropped to the bottom of the sea, and he's drowning. And he hallucinates, and he imagines, or he thinks that Alexandra Daddario's character, Summer, is swimming down to save him, and is kissing him on his lips, putting air back into his lungs. But then it's The Rock. And he was doing that, and then he like flips him off and smiles underwater, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? What am I watching? And fuck you, movie. Seriously. Why did you go that far? Why did you have to be like, you're watching Baywatch? You could have been watching something else. It would have been a better use of your time. That wasn't piss in the face and a kick in the dick. But you're watching Baywatch. Just, God. Like I said, there's no subtlety to the humor. That's just complete in your face all the time type of movie, and it gets tedious and boring. And I wouldn't mind if it's in your face like something like Pain and Gain, but that's not what you have here. It doesn't even go that far. It feels like a PG-13 movie that's only R because of some innuendo and some dick and balls jokes or a little bit of gore. Like, for example, the scene where The Rock goes and says, I'm oceanic. It says all the other bullshit, all the blabs, all that other garbage. In the trailer, it's just a short, I'm oceanic, motherfucker. And for some reason, they didn't go with that. They went with the whale's dick, moon drowns, I'm oceanic bullshit. This whole movie is baffling. It's like, this feels and looks like a movie that was made like 10 years ago. And it was released in 2017. Cinematography by Eric Steelberg is nothing. There's nothing to it. The editing by Peter S. Elliott, I honestly thought it could have used some work. The score? What score? Christopher Leonard's score? I don't remember anything. They don't even have music from the show in the film. Probably because, hey, we can't have Jimmy Jameson's song in the movie because that's too good. Everything has to be bad in Baywatch. Can't have that. Pamela Anderson has her cameo in the end, and the joke is that she's always moving in slow motion. The film ends where they're running in slow motion on the beach, and Zac Efron gets tripped up by the fat fuck character, Ronnie, and he falls on his ass. He falls face first into the sand in slow motion, and I'm like, that perfectly sums up the film right there. It trips over its dick and plants face first into the fucking beach. That's Baywatch. That's a perfect visual representation of this movie. It's a fail watch. I don't really know what else to say about the movie. I really don't, except I really felt bad for Alexandra Daddario and Kelly Rohrbach and Ilfenesh Hadera, because those three, in my opinion, were legitimately good. They had personality, they had good chemistry with one another. They were not only just nice to look at, they actually, I thought, did a good job performance-wise. And I really wish The Rock and Zac Efron were better characters. I wish there was more to these guys. I wish they were more likable. But they weren't. And this still manages to do the impossible and makes The Rock unlikable. I didn't like his character. I didn't care about his character. He was just this cocky lifeguard who was just all hyped up and hopped up on machismo and was just this ultimate bro. And I just wasn't really a big fan of that character. And Zac Efron was just another extension of that. The scene where they're doing their whole lifeguard tryouts thing and they're lifting refrigerators and doing all this other stuff and throwing tires around just felt like excess. That was just, what is the point of this? There's no point to it. It's just, it's vanity. It's just like so The Rock can flex his muscles and so Zac Efron can flex his. That's all it is. But the person who really needed to flex their muscles, the persons that really needed to do, are the writers. Because this is a scrawny-ass screenplay. It's a total bitch. It really is. There's potential here with these characters and with this kind of concept. But it's absolutely wasted with a lazy half-ass screenplay. Absolutely cringe-inducing, piss-poor attempts at humor. And a plot that isn't engaging, thrilling, or interesting. A shitty villain who, just because she's a woman, doesn't mean that you don't have to try to make this character interesting or worth your while. She wasn't even a character I loved to hate. She was just a character I hated because I felt she was a waste of fucking space. And that's just a bullshit, boring. Oh, who's the drugs? There's drugs on the beach. Who's supplying them? Oh, and this person wants to take over the beach. Who may it be? Who could it be? Who could it be now? Oh, it's the rich bitch. Oh, wow. And this dumb repeated joke with this cop guy who works with the Baywatch team who is giving them shit. And it doesn't really lead to much at all. It was as bad as it was in the trailer. When they're trying to do the whole, oh, you people, oh, you can't say that, you're just tan. And Hannibal Buress is in this for like 5 minutes as like some guy named Dave the Tech. That's his name. He's just a tech guy named Dave. That's all his character is. It's Dave the Tech. And he dies. And who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. There's a line of dialogue that Summer's character says in the movie that I think really sums up Baywatch and how a lot of people reacted to this film. Critics hated this movie. The movie was a financial disappointment for the studio. And for good reason. So you have this quote from Summer. And not a single fuck was given. That should have just been the tagline. Baywatch. And not a single fuck was given. Exactly. Nobody fucking cares. And the film didn't even care either. So that just made even more people not give a shit about this movie. I don't know what else to say about Baywatch. I've already ranted on this movie for like 33 minutes, which is way longer than I thought I would. But I guess if I was going to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give it 1.5 out of 5. And I'm doing that for 3 of the characters that I liked. There was, like I said, an okay jet ski chase, but it still wasn't really that much. There were some moments that were kind of fun, and there was potential there, but it wasn't really handled as well as it could have been. It's the type of movie that you just wish you had not watched because there really isn't anything to it. It's the type of film that it does have potential, but it's wasted. There's some characters you like, but it doesn't make it worth your while because they don't get to do that much, or what they do is not particularly memorable or fun or enticing. So what you're left with is just bad. Just a lot of bad shit. It's just lame. I'd be better off going and looking out a bay window than watching Baywatch again. And I guarantee it would be a more fun time. At least it would be interesting because I don't have a bay window in my house. So if I'm looking out a bay window, I have to be in somebody else's place. I don't know what's going on there. what might be going. There could be a cool party going on there. There could be some kind of craziness going on out there. I could be looking out the bay window. I could see a fucking vampire across the street. I could be having my own version of Fright Night. And that would definitely be a lot more fun than anything that this movie would offer me. So yeah, Baywatch is a bad, bland, boring watch. And it was shocking how bad it was. Because I just thought it was just going to be, maybe it was going to be bad, but not this bad. And how boring and dull. It was just a boring, dull movie. Based on a bad TV show. Anyway, thanks for watching my rant, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.